why most Christians leave God behind on Mondays and how to bring him back into the workplace. In this video, I want to explore why Christians will go to church on Sundays and they are extremely passionate, they are worshipping, they are interacting with people, they're having fellowship with people, and then they leave the church, go home, and then they forget everything, and they revert back to the old habits on Sunday afternoon, and then for the rest of the week until they go back to church. So this is based on something that I read in Pastor Philip Lynn's book, The Invasive Kingdom, and he said that surveys show that most Christians leave God behind on Monday morning, and well, I want to explore why I think this is the case and what we can do about it. So first of all, reason one is I think people have let me rephrase that. Just a quick note, I did a big run a few days ago and I'm still recovering mentally, physically as well, so I'm not as sharp and as coherent as usual. Hey, it is what it is. So let me rephrase what I was saying. Just is one of the reasons is the subconscious sacred secular divide. And what this means is on a subconscious level, when people go to church, they are essentially conditioned that this is sacred, and then that triggers a sequence of behavioural patterns which leads to worship, and the sacred persona comes out, and then they leave the church and they go into the world again, and then into the secular transactional marketplace on Monday morning, and then they again conditioned to trigger this sequence of behaviours which align with what to do in the workforce. So the key difference would be is that in the workforce, when you go back to work on Monday, or when you operate your business, the spirit of the marketplace is entirely transactional, which is based on making money as the primary goal. And when this is the North Star, all decisions downstream and subconsciously based on making money, which ultimately lead to day-to-day decisions where you are prioritizing money over human impact and over humanness, which is a big problem in my opinion. It means that you are focused more on hitting your sales targets and your KPIs over doing things for the benefit of the person that you're interacting with. It means that you're making decisions based on various metrics and targets and achieving arbitrary worldly success that the workforce gives you, rather than focusing on fellowship, relationships, identifying your calling and living out your calling in everything you do, and doing things for the benefit of others. And that is essentially what the sacred secular divide is, and it is a problem because I've lived in the secular world and transactional world for most of my life, and it never really worked for me. I never found true meaning and purpose in anything that I did, and I understand fully how this works because I spent the best part of a decade learning, studying, training, investing in coaching, investing in consulting, to become as good as to develop my skills in copywriting, sales and marketing, and then making money as a freelancer, and then investing in pretty much all into a business, and then all the practical experience I got from that, which everything I learned, studied, all the input I got from coaches and consulting was transactional. What return on investment am I going to get? cost per hour, number of subscribers, number of people on your email list, number of people watching your videos, number of this, number of that, number of the other. How fast can we do it? How scalable is this? How can we, in later years, how can we use AI to do this in a way that's completely automated? How can we use AI to basically trick people into thinking they're talking to a human being so we can give them that personal, emotional connection, when in actual fact we're doing this at scale, all these things. It just takes the humanness out of it all. I was that person. I fully understand the journey I went on and how I reached that point. And it is the spirit of the marketplace, business, the world, which is influencing your decisions subconsciously on a moment-to-moment basis, on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, because your external performance is based on whether you achieve these worldly metrics set by your company that you're working, or set by what you set in your business, which again is influenced by what other people are doing and other people are teaching. So that is the subconscious sacred secular divide. The second one is cultural pressures in a transactional environment. This second point builds on the first point. What that means is that if cultural pressures, let me just give you an example. So let's say you work for an insurance company, and the insurance company is clever in what they do. Well, of course they are. They found multi-billion-dollar companies in a multi-billion-dollar industry. They invest a lot of money into understanding how to motivate their agents and their staff to make more money for the company. And so let's say the insurance agent, you have a low basic salary plus commission, and then suddenly you are told that if you hit your sales targets this quarter, you are going to be entered into a prize where you can win this brand new phone, high-end phone. It costs, it's one of the top brand phones that you can get. Hit your sales targets and you've entered into a draw to win this. Exceed your sales targets this month, and we might take you on an all expenses paid for trip somewhere, on a holiday, on a vacation. It's the end of the month, you are speaking to someone, you have an insurance package to sell them, you need to make one more sale before the end of the week in order to qualify for the incentives that the insurance company have. But the person that you're speaking to the package isn't best for them necessarily. They'll be paying for something that they don't really need. Deep down you probably know it, but you're caught up in the culture of the environment that you're in, that everyone needs insurance, the whole narrative of the company tells you, which you accept 100% because you work for them. Are you going to speak to that person and say, honestly answer the question, are you going to speak to that person and say, hey, actually I don't think this package is for you, I think a better package would be more suitable for your situation, but if you sign up for this lower price second package, I'm not going to qualify to get my incentives, which the company's promised me, or am you going to try to sell them on the higher price thing that they don't need in order for you to pursue what your sales targets are, and then be entered into the draw to win this new phone or to go on this trip and all of these things. I think if you answer that question honestly, you're going to sell them on the higher price thing, and then you're going to just sell you for your own self-interest, and then you're going to justify it later that it's the best thing for them because you buy into the narrative that the company has told you, the culture, the spirit of the company that you work in. I know this to be true because I know someone that's done this, and that's just the way it is. And the person that I'm describing, they're Christian, they go to church every week, they volunteer at the church, but that's what they do in the workforce because of the environment, the cultural environment that they're in. And of course, the cultural environment in the workforce is going to negatively influence what you do if everything is based on making money as the primary goal. And that is the cultural pressures in a transactional environment. Now, I could go on and explain this in more details about how this would apply if you have your own business, if you're working for a company that does not operate on commissions like an insurance or a sales agent does. But I don't want this video to go on too long because I've got many more to record today. So I'm just going to leave it there. The third reason is that many Christians have never been taught a biblical theology of work. And basically what this means is that a lot of Christians don't know the way to view work through a biblical lens. And work essentially becomes a means to an end. And a means to an end would be so they can get an income, so they can have status, so they can have comfort in their lives and they can do what they want to do. And so it means that on a subconscious level that people go to work and do the job just to get the paycheck, and then they can use the paycheck to pay the bills, which there's nothing wrong with that. You've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got to have food and shelter and a roof over your head before you can pursue meaning in other areas of your life. And they just get comfortable, they fall into a routine, and then that just becomes it. And then, you know, they get deeply ingrained in habits that they do on a day-to-day basis, and they just don't. The longer it goes on, the harder it is to rectify, kind of thing. And this directly ties into the subconscious division between the sacred and secular, and it's all conditioned patterns of behaviour based on what people have done in the past. Now, the way to view work through a biblical lens would be that you view your work as a way to steward your gifts. You can view work as a way to bless others, and you can view your work as a way to operate. So what you do on a moment-to-moment basis will please God, will honour God, will glorify God through your actions in your work. And when you do this and you have the biblical mindset of work, you intrinsically flip the tables. So what used to be mundane, boring, stuff that you hate, routine, becomes an act of worship. And when it becomes an act of worship, it gives intrinsic meaning to what you do. You can set your daily targets of how can I be a blessing to as many people as possible today, even if no one knows what you're doing, even if no one sees what you're doing. And when you do that, you intrinsically get more meaning and value in what you do. Let me give you a quick example. This is not work related, but it is directly related to having a biblical view of what you do. And so for me, ultra distance running is a hobby and passion of mine. I'm not good at what I do by a long means. In fact, I'm quite the opposite. And it's something that I've done for several years. And I had a realization, a while back, maybe a month ago, and it was, well, when you are doing long distance running, it's an intrinsically selfish sport. The amount of training you put in when you're on your own, the sacrifice that you have to make of your family, doing other things in order to pursue something that you want to do. And so I was wrestling with the question of, well, how can I become Christ-like in ultra running and use ultra running for the benefit of others? And I played around with ChatGPT to come up with some ideas and, thinking about it. And one thing that sprang to mind is that you can, if you're out on the course, you can pick up litter dropped by other runners, and no one's going to see you do that. But God knows what you're doing, and that pleases God, because you're picking up litter when you don't have to. You're doing things when no one's watching. And when I went out for my run on Saturday, whenever I came across a piece of litter dropped by another runner, I just picked it up, put it in my pocket, and just threw it away at the next opportunity. And no one saw me do it, no one knew I was doing it, and that doesn't matter. But it flipped around me going and doing a run for my own selfish interests to, well, by me picking up litter on the course, I'm running and doing this in a way that honours God, that pleases God, and that gives more meaning to what I do. And it's exactly the same when it comes to work and business, that if you do things on a small level that may seem small and insignificant to you, even if you're working in admin or something, if you operate on the principle of how can I be the biggest blessing to as many people as I can today, how can I bring Christ into what I do in Christ-like behaviour, even if no one notices or sees anything, you know deep down that what you're doing pleases God, and you will impact people in a subtle way. You don't know where it will lead afterwards, and it gives intrinsic meaning to what you do, and it gives you the opportunity to transform the mundane into something that becomes extraordinary for you on a personal level, which gives meaning and purpose to what you're doing. And that would be having a Christian perspective of doing work and what work means. And unfortunately, most people don't know what this looks like. The next one, number 4, would be your identity is rooted in achievement. And so this directly ties into all the other points as well. And that is that in the secular transactional marketplace and the world that we live in, your identity is rooted in achievement. I've fell for this for the most part of my life. I wanted to make a certain amount of money per month so other people would see me successful. I wanted to buy expensive things and wear designer clothes and all of these things so other people would look at me and think he's successful. I wanted to kind of show off in a way when I speak to my parents, so they think, oh, Sam's doing well, because all my life they never really supported anything that I did. I should have been more like my younger brother, who followed in my dad's footsteps of getting into industry and manufacturing, which, I mean, the irony is in my area, industry and manufacturing died 20 years back, so my brother's jumping from one job to the next because there's no work because the company's closing down. But I should be more like my brother, is what my parents used to tell me, and so naturally that made me want to try to show off with what I'm doing, because they never supported me, as if they, here, look at this, look at what I've done. All of these, you want external validation from other people. Well, I was that person. It's painful, but I can admit it now, because perhaps deep down, other people may experience this themselves, and so I just want to let you know that it's normal kind of thing. I went through it. I know what it's like to go through that. I don't know what it's like to come out the other side. And yes, you will compare yourself to other people, which directly relates to the cultural pressures in the transactional workforce as well, because your performance is measured, your self-worth and performance is measured on what you achieve in your job role. And if the achievements in the secular transactional marketplace is based on how much money you make as a company, as the top goal, which trickles down, and well, you have to root your identity in what it means to become Christ-like and in God, and doing things that glorify God and impacting people rather than worldly success. And when you do this, whether you're religious or not, when you do this, quite frankly, your entire life perspective changes. You feel fulfilled, you have joy in what you do, life becomes better. Because each human being is made in the image of God. Each human being is unique, and this is objective whether you're religious or not, because every human being alive has gone through a set of life experiences. They have a set of unique gifts that only they can do, and it's the combination of them which make them a unique individual human. And you have to accept that fact and appreciate humanness for what humanness is. Otherwise, you just degrade the value of an individual human to that of, other things, let's say, without me going into too much detail. But let me just give a precise example of what I'm saying is that if everything that you do is based on making money in your transactional environment, then you are degrading each human being that you work with down to a cost per hour or a return on investment, basically a commodity that you're happy to trade with, instead of focusing on what makes them unique and special and what their gifts are, which is problematic. And you will make this problem worse by rooting your own ambitions in external achievement, because you're focusing on self-interest over other people. Flip it around and focus on doing things for the benefit of others, rooting your identity in Christ, and you do focus on the humanness and what makes humans unique, and that gives you joy, fulfillment, and it just makes you a better person. Everyone you interact with become better as a result of it. And finally, the final reason is the lack of community. What that means is that if you want to integrate your faith into the workforce, you don't have a community to do it. You don't have a community or a support group around you. When you do things on your own, it is much harder than if you have support. You need people to hold you accountable. You need people to reaffirm to you what you're doing is right. You need people to kind of hold your hand through the tough times and to talk through situations that you've encountered, so you're not relying on your own emotions, which are heavily influenced by the transactional workforce anyway. And that's one of the reasons why I want to build a low-cost community to provide this support as well. We all know that when you do things on your own, it is infinitely more harder to do, and especially to stick at when you don't see results, than if you've got some level of accountability there. And a way to just view that is that, in terms of the accountability, is that on Sundays people will go to church on Sundays, and it's part of your routine, it's part of what you do, and you have that accountability because you know why you're going to church. You're going there to worship, you're going there for fellowship, you're going there to learn and all of these things, and you feel a bit guilty when you don't go, at least I do, and that's, you have the community there, you want to go there, you want to be part of this, you want to interact with people, you have that community, and this is kind of what I want to build as well, in order to help people integrate their faith into the work and business. And just finally, while I close, how would you actually do that? It's how to integrate faith into business. You don't have to be preachy. You don't have to go there and quote scripture and try to evangelize. You simply do it based on your own actions. You pursue Christ-likeness in what you do. You operate in day-to-day, moment-to-moment situations. You make your moment-to-moment decisions based on what it means to become Christ-like, which is the pursuit of excellence, the pursuit of extravagant love. How can you be a blessing to as many people as possible? Radical generosity in your time and in what you do for people and how you help them. It's putting other humble service, putting other people ahead of yourself, accepting that your achievements are not your own. It's and having integrity in everything that you do. every decision, even if it goes against your own self-interest. You adopt this mindset and you apply this in your day-to-day decisions, your day-to-day actions, and then it just becomes a framework on how to live and do your work. And when you do this, you're still operating in the same environment, but you're doing things in a way which align with biblical principles. And I once heard a pastor say, a pastor from Nigeria, she said, talking about salt and light from the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew, and she said that the reason for well, to put it succinctly, is she said people don't read the Bible, they read the Bible through you, which means that people will read and see the benefits of the Bible and the gospel and Jesus through the way that you act and the way that you behave, your actions. That becomes magnetic to other people, and then they start to notice that there's something different about you, and then that gives you the chance to talk to them or introduce the gospel to them, which is the concept in the Invasive Kingdom by Pastor Philip Lynn. If that's what you want to do. If you don't want to evangelize people through work or business, it's perfectly fine. It's not for me to decide that. That's up to you. But it means that everything that you do, every action that you take, will align with biblical principles, will align with Jesus' teaching, will align with what it means to integrate your faith and business. That's all I've got for you. See you next time.